Looks like majority of us are on, so we'll go ahead and get started. Well, again, hi everyone, and welcome to our second Better Buildings benchmarking training. I'm gonna hop right in since we have a lot of information to cover today, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions at the end. So today our presenters include myself. I'm Marissa Kunch, an energy efficiency specialist with the City and County of Honolulu's Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. Joining me today, we have Celeste Smith. She's an analyst from the Cadmus Group supporting the Energy Star Portfolio Manager team. And we also have Juan Tran, a senior energy advisor with Hawaii Energy. So today, this training will be recorded and posted to our website. The slides will also be made available to attendees after the training. There's some helpful links that we have in the training, so slides will be helpful. And then for questions, we'll be taking questions just after part 2 here. So we'll go through part 1, we'll go through part 2, and then for questions, we'll kind of open the floor if you have anything about portfolio manager, maybe compliance related questions. That'll be the time for questions. So with that, I'm going to jump in and start going over what is benchmarking all about. So what is benchmarking? Benchmarking is the process of tracking your energy and water use over time. The benefits of benchmarking, they allow building owners and managers to track one of their largest ongoing expenses, better help them to understand their building's performance relative to similar buildings, and identify opportunities to improve efficiency. And further, it helps the city to improve its programs and services. The last component of our benchmarking program is transparency, which means this annual benchmarking data will be made available on our website. So this is an example of what the publicly available data might look like. This is an example from the City of Portland's program. They have a map here showing the building type, the total greenhouse gas emissions, and energy use per square foot for each building. So our program will follow something similar. And the data will be made available about 4 months after the first deadline, so the end of 2023. The reason our benchmarking program exists today is because both municipal and community benchmarking programs were outlined in our resilience strategies and climate action plan, calling for both city buildings as well as commercial and multifamily buildings to start tracking their energy and water use. Here's a photo of Mayor Blangiardi signing into law Bill 22, which is now Ordinance 2217, which requires all buildings over 25,000 square feet to be benchmarked, as well as city buildings over 10,000 square feet to be benchmarked. So Ordinance 2217, as well as Ordinance 2047, requiring those city buildings to benchmark. Our city is not the first city to implement a benchmarking program. Currently, a number of cities have programs in place to help their buildings track and report energy and water usage. The orange areas, both city and states, are areas where benchmarking is required for public, commercial, and multifamily buildings, including Honolulu. And the blue and purple areas are some cities and states that actually require additional measures beyond benchmarking, which might include energy audits or performance measures. On this slide, we have a few statistics from successful benchmarking in other cities and states. Not going to read all these statistics, but just for one example, in 1 year, Denver saw energy savings of 4.5%, equating to $13.5 million in bill savings. So just by seeing success from other cities, we're excited to see what bill savings and energy savings we can bring here to Honolulu. Getting more into the compliance side, the big question is who needs to benchmark and when? So by June 30th of this year, buildings over 100,000 square feet in gross floor area will be required to benchmark. Next year will be buildings 50,000 square feet and above, and the final year will be buildings 25,000 square feet and above. So the reporting deadline is June 30th of every year, and it is an annual reporting requirement. So each year you'll be required to report your data by that June 30th deadline. So before I pass it off to Celeste, she really is the expert of Energy Star's portfolio manager. I'm just going to give a brief introduction, and I have a few slides to go over that are somewhat unique to our program and should be noted while Celeste goes through her demo of Energy Star. So first, Energy Star Portfolio Manager is a free online tool provided by the EPA. It allows buildings to track their energy and water usage and input key building details about their building. The tool is required to be used to benchmark with our program. So even if you're tracking maybe on your own spreadsheet, it is required to use Energy Star Portfolio Manager to track your data. So these are the 5 quick and easy steps to creating your Energy Star Portfolio Manager account. Step 1 is gathering your energy and water data. So this includes your electricity data, gas data, and your water data. The next step is to create your free accounts. You'll add specific details about your building, enter your monthly water and energy data, and then at the very end, you'll respond to a data request from the city. So overall, for first-time users, it's estimated that this takes about 2 to 3 hours. And after the first year, you won't need to continue creating your profile. You'll just log into your same account and upload the previous calendar year's energy usage. So first year, about 2 to 3 hours, and the following years, significantly less time. So something else to note as Celeste goes through her demo is the Oahu Building ID. This is something you'll enter under standard IDs in Portfolio Manager. This is a unique ID provided by our office, and it allows us to identify your building and is used as communication between us, different utilities, as well as your building. It's pretty common for buildings to have multiple addresses or several meters on their site. So this ID really helps us to just kind of consolidate communication. So where can you find your Oahu Building ID? If you received a direct mail notification, you can find your Oahu Building ID on your mailer. You can also find this ID on our website. We have a mapping tool as well as a covered buildings list. So you can find that at resilientoahu.org/benchmarking. And if you don't see your building on the list, but you know that your building is large enough to be required to benchmark this year, you can reach out to our team and we'll provide you with an Oahu Building ID. Next, I'll just be going through how to upload your data into Portfolio Manager. So for your electricity data, if you have more than 4 commercial electric meters or more than 6 residential electric meters, HECO is able to offer aggregated whole building data. So you can reach out to them at bbb@hawaiianelectric.com for that consolidated electricity data. If you're a multifamily building and you have 200 individually metered tenants, you don't have to go chasing 200 different electric bills. You can, again, request this whole building data from HECO. The other option, if you have under this number of meters, is to review your monthly electric bills, and it'll provide the last 12 months of data on your last electric bill. So you can just review that bill, upload each month's usage, and you'll be good to go. Next, getting your gas data. So your Hawaii gas data can be found also on your monthly gas bill. So our best advice is to find your 13 most recent Hawaii gas bills and input that into Portfolio Manager. We say 13 instead of 12 because there's a high chance that the usage goes mid-month. So to ensure that you have a complete calendar year input into Portfolio Manager, you'll want to find that extra bill to make sure you're covering all of 2022 and not just maybe half of December or half of January. If you find that you're maybe missing a gas bill, you can reach out to Hawaii Gas via their online submittal form at their website here. So you can go to their website, hawaiigas.com, and then it's under For Business and then under Better Buildings Benchmarking. And the last utility, uploading your water utility information. There's two ways to get your data from the Board of Water Supply. One, you can find it on your monthly water bill. It'll also show the last 11 or 12 months of usage on your water bill. You can also sign up for a free WaterSmart account. So if you go online to boardofwatersupply.com/WaterSmart, you can obtain your data online. And then, of course, if you have any issues reading your water bill or if you have questions on your water bill, you can reach out to the Board of Water Supply at customerservice@hbws.org. And the last item to note, so after you create your profile, add that Oahu Building ID, get your utility data into Portfolio Manager, the last step will be responding to a data request from the city and county. So the link can be found online at our website. It's www.resilientoahu.org/benchmarking. You'll click this link, it'll navigate you back to Portfolio Manager. It'll prompt you with a couple additional steps. And then you'll receive an email saying that you've successfully shared your data and you're good to go. So that's the final step to complying with the ordinance. And in addition to this training, we do have other resources on our website. You can go to resilientoahu.org/benchmarking for resources, including a 5-step how-to guide, a detailed how-to guide, an FAQ sheet, and then you can sign up for our newsletter. The newsletters, we really encourage you to sign up for it because that's kind of where we announce updates to our website or updates for new resources that we might have. And then Energy Star Portfolio Manager has recorded trainings as well as trainings you can sign up for each month, kind of going over the basics of how Portfolio Manager works. And lastly, any questions you have, you can reach out to our program at energyprogram@honolulu.gov. So that was a lot of information. I'm going to pass it on to Celeste to go through Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Just want to say shout out to Celeste. She is on the East Coast, so she's joining us around her dinner time. We're really grateful to have her. She really is an expert, so definitely tune in, take some notes, and then at the very end, she'll leave some time for questions if you have any questions about Portfolio Manager. So with that, Celeste, I will pass it to you.
Thanks so much, Marissa. And I'm going to take over the screen share. And so I wanted to just say to everyone, I think you should now see my screen. I wanted to welcome you and thank you for coming. I'll try to be brief because I could talk about Portfolio Manager all day, but I'm hoping that this demo will kind of give you a feel for how Portfolio Manager works and make you more confident when you're benchmarking. So first off, I just want to show you how to kind of get into Portfolio Manager. So if you go to energystar.gov and then you head over to the commercial buildings and click on benchmark, then you'll find many resources about benchmarking, and you'll also find a login portal. So if you don't have an account yet, you can create an account and it takes less than 5 minutes. So to create an account, all you need is really some basic information about you and your organization. And something to note is, if you're thinking, oh goodness, like for this account, my name may not be representative for the entire organization that you're reporting for, that's okay. You can put in your organization's name down here, and this information can be changed down the road if needed. The only thing that can't be changed is your username. So make sure that that username is representative of the building or the organization that you're reporting on, just so that it doesn't become outdated quickly, since you cannot change that username. So now that you've created an account, you can log into your account, and I'm currently logged in, and you'll see that I have this kind of tabular system here, as well as menus up in the top right corner. So like I said, Portfolio Manager is based on a tabbing system. So we have My Portfolio as our first tab, and here you can see the buildings that I have in this group. Since we're doing a training right now, I have 3 buildings here, but if I have all of my properties, I have a lot more properties because I do a lot of demos like this. But once you create properties, you'll be able to see them at your My Portfolio tab. Then we also have a sharing tab, which is how you can share properties between different accounts. We also have a reporting tab, which is how you will eventually report into Honolulu's data request template. It's also how you can pull out important data and metrics about your building so that you feel more and you are more informed about its performance over time. And finally, we have the recognition tab, and this is how you can apply for Energy Star certification, which is a recognition program that requires high performing buildings. And so this is how you would apply for that recognition. You'll notice that my account also has these admin and processing tabs, but that's just because since I work for Portfolio Manager, I have some additional permissions. So that's how these tabs are set up. And then just quickly for this top right-hand corner, this is where you're going to find your help. It's also where you'll find contacts and notifications, and you can change your settings. So for example, if I need to change my password, I'll go into account settings and click on password, and I can update it from there. Or if I needed to change, the phone number for my account, right now you can tell that I have a dummy number in here since I do these trainings. You can change the phone number if the person managing this account changes. So then for the notifications and Energy Star notifications, these are mostly about sharing for notifications or the connection requests that you may have. And again, that's just to communicate between accounts. These Energy Star notifications are really just about if there's a utility that is able to push data into your account. Not super applicable here. And then this contacts is how you can add new contacts or connections. So if, for example, you are a part of a larger business or organization and you need to report into something else, you may need to share, and you can add contacts for others in your organization there. And finally, my favorite menu in all of Portfolio Manager is the help menu. And so here you'll notice that there are a wide variety of options. There's, learn more about Portfolio Manager. There's also FAQs. And so I won't dive too much into this, but if you have a question, someone else has probably asked it too. So I would recommend checking out the FAQs, and you can type your question into the search bar and see if anything comes up. There's also a glossary of terms used throughout Portfolio Manager, so it's really clear, what the gross floor area is for Portfolio Manager compared to maybe what your understanding is. Then there are also both live and recorded trainings. There's a help desk if you have a Portfolio Manager specific question. And there's also, a YouTube channel. So there's a lot of resources that are there to help you. So now that we've kind of walked through Portfolio Manager, where to find help, that kind of thing, I'm going to show you how to set up a building. And so kind of the first thing that you may need to know is how to add a property. So let's click here, and then we're going to follow through the prompts that Portfolio Manager has for us to set this property up. So first, we're going to select a property type, and I am going to select a multifamily housing, if I can find it. And you'll notice that there are dozens of property types here, and that's because Portfolio Manager is using data from around the nation and the CBEX survey, which is commercial building survey on energy efficiency, and it categorizes similar buildings into these different property types so that you can compare apples to apples for a building. So it's important that you choose the property type that best represents your property. If you're unsure about it, there are additional help documents about it. Then you're going to choose how many physical buildings that you consider part of your property. So if you're benchmarking a tenant space, you would select none. If your building is freestanding, simple, just one building, you'd select one. And then if your property includes multiple buildings, you may want to select more than one. If you're unsure, I would definitely review the campus guidance here. It's pretty clear about when to benchmark one building separate from another, or when to benchmark more than one building. So for this demo, we're going to keep it simple and go with one building. Then finally, you will select your property's construction status. And so most buildings are probably going to be existing, but you can also, in Portfolio Manager, benchmark a design project if you're trying to plan out how efficient your building would be during the design and construction process. You can also create a test property if you're just playing around with the tool and trying to understand it better, or like what I'm doing here for giving a demo. So I'm going to enter the data as if the property is in operation, and then I'm going to click Get Started. So here we're going to add in a bunch of property information, and so this will just take 1 second. So we're going to do and this is all pretty self-explanatory. But one thing to note is anywhere where you see the red star, it is a required field. And I'm just looking over here to make sure that I have a accurate zip code. So here we go. And I'm adding in the state and then the year built. Again, this is just a demo building for now, but it is important when you're benchmarking your building that you are accurate in what you're benchmarking. So if you aren't sure what your gross floor area is, you need to contact someone else at your organization to make sure that you're correct. You can always enter in a temporary value and flag it as such here. We recommend using the actual value, but we don't want to, stop you while you're benchmarking if there's just one value that you're kind of waiting on. So for this building, it's going to be 70,000 square feet, and it won't have any irrigated area. And then the occupancy is 100% for this building, but the way that we like to think about occupancy is kind of simplified, but apply this as best you can. So if you take a 10-story office building and you have, 8 floors rented of that office building, it would be about 80% occupied. So again, that's very simplified, but if you have further questions about occupancy, there are many FAQs available. You can also add a property photo if you'd like to your property. And then here is the very important standard IDs field. So you'll click the drop down and then you'll see dozens of options. And so we're looking for the Oahu building ID right here. And then you'll add in the building ID that you find through the Oahu Help Desk website. But it's very important that you include the standard IDs here because that's how Marissa and her team are going to identify your building throughout this process. So for this, because this is a fake building, I'm not going to have one, but for your real buildings, you need to have the Oahu building ID. Then finally, I'm going to see a box that asks which of the following selections apply. And this is going to, the options here are going to depend on the property type that I chose earlier. So for example, if I were looking at, say, what comes to mind is a K-12 school, but it would include like, is there a heated swimming pool? Is there a gymnasium? Those kinds of questions. And here we have the heated swimming pool. So if in my multifamily building, there is, a heated swimming pool, I'm going to select that. And then Portfolio Manager will ask me additional questions down the road so that they can accurately gauge the building's performance. Same for, if there are parking areas that are included as well. So we're going to select the parking areas for this and click Continue. So now it's asking us some additional questions. And this is, again, just to make sure that we're getting an accurate picture of the building use. So here we're just going to add in this information. And this is a low-rise building, but of course, if it's a higher-rise building, you're going to want to add in that information, or a mid-rise or a high-rise. And you also notice these use a default checkboxes or the temporary value checkboxes. And so we already kind of discussed when you would use the temporary values if you want to make sure to correct a value when you have the data available. Defaults are also an option in that case. We again recommend against using them because they don't represent an accurate and whole building data and information for your building. So if you have to use a default, we recommend using it as a temporary solution. And then here we have the number of bedrooms. And so I'm just going to say 200. Here, there's a question for a common entrance. Again, these questions will all be different based on the property type that you're benchmarking. And there's no specific resident population. Lots of interesting questions. It's sometimes kind of fun to go through all of these questions for the different properties just to know what's going on. I'm going to say 0% can be heated just because it's Hawaii. I may be incorrect in that assumption, but and then that I'll say 90% can be cooled. So you'll also notice that there are some fields that have a blue star next to them. And so that just means that these metrics go into the making of an Energy Star score. And so an Energy Star score, it's really an easy metric to be able to compare your building against similar buildings nationwide. And so this is a 1 to 100 score, kind of like a grade, and it represents the percentile of your building's EUI compared to other buildings. So if you score a 75 or higher, that means you're performing better than 75% of similar buildings. And that also means that you can apply for Energy Star certification with a few other requirements as well, but it's, you know, the first step towards that recognition. Then down here, since we selected parking, we have a parking use kind of additional box. So it explains what is included for property or for parking. And then here I'm going to just specify the open parking lot size, if there's any partially or completely enclosed parking garages, and then if there's supplemental heating, which again, I would kind of doubt for Hawaii. So for this one, it's going to be kind of small parking lot, but and then I'm going to click add property. Oh, and it looks like I see. So you'll notice that since I didn't fill out some of these required boxes, Portfolio Manager stopped me in my tracks and said, hey, you need to fill out some of this information. And all along the way, Portfolio Manager is helping you to enter accurate and complete data. So again, if you get stopped somewhere, Portfolio Manager will flag it with a red text, and then also at the top, you'll get a red banner. But once you do something successfully, oh, I think I must not have entered something else. Sometimes, oh, here we go, the supplemental heating. So no supplemental heating, and then I'm going to click add property. Interesting, it booted me out, but here we go. There we go. We have created a building. So now in my portfolio, I'll be able to see this property as one of my properties here. So there you go. And so I've now created that property. So I have to enter my energy and my water use to comply with Honolulu's law. And to do that, I would first need to gather that information from the utility, which Marissa detailed. But once you have that information, you can add a meter to record both the energy and the water use that you have. So when you're recording the energy use for your building, you need to select all types of energy, all types of fuel that are used in your building. So if it's just electric and natural gas, that's perfectly understandable. If it's electricity that's purchased from the grid and it's really simple, you can just do that. But if you have on-site solar panels, you also need to select here and specify how many meters. Same with wind turbines. If you want more information about how to benchmark on-site solar panels, there is additional guidance on on Energy Star's website. But you definitely need to include, you know, every type of fuel that you have. So if you have a diesel generator, for example, you would want to include this. If you have like fuel oil that's delivered periodically, you can include that as well and have a meter that is a delivery meter. So for right now, though, we're just going to do electric, purchased from the grid, and natural gas for simplicity's sake. So then I'm going to click Get Started. And here, you'll see that I now have to specify units, the date the meter became active, etc., so that we can set these meters up. So the units that I'm going to use will be what my utility bill says. Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, so just make sure that the units are right, or else you may get really strange EUIs on the other side. So my utility bills are in therms, and then for my electricity, they are in kBTU. And then the date the meter became active is the first date that you want to start reporting from. So if you want to start reporting from 2018, just because you have the data that far back and you're interested to see what your, you know, energy efficiency looks like since then, you would enter, you know, January 1st, 2018, if that's the first date of the data that you have available. If you only have, you know, 2022 data, then that's what you'll enter in here. And that's what I have for my kind of faux data for this demo building. You can also, as you kind of continue to track your data in Portfolio Manager, you can add in additional meters, of course, but if, for example, because of construction or an updated meter, you can also mark old meters as inactive. That way you don't lose past data, but you would just need to mark the date the meter became active. And then if you have like propane delivery or diesel delivery, you can mark it as a delivery, and then you can mark when and how much was delivered. All right, so now I'm going to click Create Meters, and see we get that green banner at the top, which means we did a good thing, we're moving along. And so now we can add in energy data for our different meters. And so there are two real ways to enter it in, outside of having a utility push data into your account, which is not quite the case for Honolulu. But the two ways that we're going to talk about are manual entry and then spreadsheet upload. So for manual entry, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to click to add an entry. Then you're going to just give the start date, the end date, the usage, and if you have it and would like to add it to your account, the total cost. So for example, start date, end date, and then my usage. And then I can add another entry, and I could do this for the full year that I'm reporting. For some buildings that would be just 12 entries, and that would be pretty simple. But for other buildings, you may have multiple meters, and it may get kind of complicated and cumbersome. So another option that you have is using a single meter spreadsheet upload. So to do that, you click here on the single meter spreadsheet, which will then download the spreadsheet template, and it opened behind me on a different screen. But here is what it looks like. So you'll notice that there is a start date, end date, and usage that are required. Then you also have to specify whether or not the data that you're adding is an estimation, and this is a drop down. So when you're adding your data to this template, the only guidance that I can really harp on is that you don't edit the headers at all. It won't allow you to upload the information if you edit the headers. So I actually have some information that is preloaded into those. And so let me pull that up. And it opened behind me yet again. But here we go. So here's some information I added to it. And so now I'm going to show you how you can upload it using that option. So I'll just click choose file, and then I'll open the file that I have the data on. There we go. It's hopefully will let me do it this time. All right, and now I'm going to click upload, and you'll see that it has all of the data that I had on that spreadsheet, and it looks like one of the cells I didn't have data for, but there we go. And then I'm going to click continue, and see, Portfolio Manager is again telling me there may be gaps or overlaps in the dates that I provided. I think it was that one March date, but that's okay. And then I get the green box at the top saying that the meter entries have been added to my meters. So I skipped over adding electricity data, but it's the exact same process as natural gas. And water data is the exact same as well. You just create a meter, and you can specify, if it's potable, non-potable, etc. for that water. But then you have to select the meters that will be included in your building's metrics. So for these, again, some buildings it's going to be really simple, right? You have just 2 meters, an electric and a natural gas, or just 1 meter. But for a lot of buildings, it will be more complicated. So if you have sub-meters that feed into a master meter, you don't want to double count those meters. So you would need to decide whether or not you want to include just the master meter or all the sub-meters and not the master meter. And so that's why you have the selection page. Then you also have to specify if these meters account for the total energy consumption or if they do not account for it. So again, Portfolio Manager will prompt you if it doesn't account for all of that energy consumption, and then it will kind of lead you through that process. Then I'm going to click Apply Selections. I get that green banner at the top, my favorite thing. And so then we have, when we scroll down, looks like we have a little data flag on the natural gas. And I think it's because here we are, we have a duplicate month here. So that's just because of the nature of demoing. But I will show you another multifamily building that I set up prior to this, just so that you can see what it looks like once you have your data in. So I've put in some dummy natural gas and electric data, and you can see that I have a chart that's really helpful. So if I have a huge spike, I can, double check, were we running our HVAC systems more that month, or maybe were we billed too much? So it's really helpful for just managing your energy use as a whole. And then finally, for reporting, I thought I could show you how to respond to the data request template. And so I am on the Better Buildings benchmarking website, and the link was dropped in the chat. And so I am just scrolling down, and then I'm clicking on the data request link here. And you'll see that there are some really excellent instructions on what you need to do, that you need to run the data quality checker, which I can show you as well. And then it's asking who you're submitting this data on the behalf of. So if you were working for a third-party consultant, for example, you'd select someone else. But if you are, the building manager, the building owner, you'd select myself. Then you'll notice that the time frame is grayed out. We don't get to change that when we're responding to this. And then I'm going to select the properties that I want to report on. So I'm going to select the Honolulu Demo 1 and apply selection. And then I'm going to generate the response preview. This is the first of 2 steps for responding to the data request template. I get to see this response preview because Portfolio Manager wants to be really transparent about what information you're submitting, but I haven't submitted it yet. So you'll notice that I have some errors found, which is great because I can demo to you what you can do with this. So I, for example, don't have water in this demo building yet, right? And so I would need to add in water to comply with Honolulu's requirements. But again, since this is just a quick demo, I'm going to then click Send Response. And just for this demo, I'm going to submit anyway. I can select who I want to send a confirmation email to. And if they're a contact with me on Portfolio Manager, I can select them from here. Also, if my boss isn't on Portfolio Manager, but I want them to have a confirmation email, I can add their email address in here. I'll receive my data in an Excel format or an XML format if I'd like, and it will be the same data that Honolulu receives. So you get to choose the format, and then you certify that you're releasing the data. You e-sign the response. There's another little green check. And then once you're ready, you click Send Data. And once you've sent that data, you'll get the confirmation email, and then you are done responding to the data request template. So it's that quick 1-2 step. Some people will, generate the response preview, and then they'll kind of fail to finish up by sending the data. So it's just important to remember that step. But that's kind of all I have. So this has been so much fun, and if you have questions, I am more than happy to answer them.
Thanks, Celeste. Maybe can we see the data quality checker?
Oh, yeah,
Just to
absolutely.
see what that looks like kind of prior to submitting.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I go to my portfolio page, then I can find the property that I want to look at for the data quality checker. So to choose this demo building. And then on the property page, I'm going to scroll down and there's the data quality checker. So here I'll click check for possible errors. I'll give the time frame. And so this should be the same as what we're submitting for. So this will be December 31st, 2022. And Portfolio Manager looks at annualized data. So we need the last date of the 12 months that we're looking at. So that's why it's December 31st. And then we're going to click Run Checker. And here I'm going to get any flags that for any kind of errors that I may have. So right now I'm getting a flag about having no water meters and no waste and materials meters. You can disregard the waste and materials meters for this compliance, but you would need the water meters. And if I look at, let's look at the one that we made during our quick demo, because it will have several errors, so you can see what that looks like. So again, I'm on the summary tab here, and then I'm going to click check for possible errors. And here we go. So since I didn't add the electricity data, there's not 12 full months of data. We're getting a stop sign, which means, you know, this is a really big deal. And then there's also overlaps in the meter. So, but then I can click on these and correct those pretty simply.
Perfect. Super helpful. I think that's definitely super important to review prior to submitting, because if you don't have a complete calendar year uploaded, you won't be in compliance with the ordinance. So super important to just double check to make sure no months were like accidentally skipped. All right, we can open the floor to questions regarding portfolio manager for Celeste before she hops off. So anyone who has a question, you can either put it in the chat and I can read it out loud, or if you'd like to unmute and ask the question, we can do that as well. So I'll give maybe just a minute here for anyone to ask a question if they have one. It's a lot of information, so I understand if most of the audience is processing the info.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe Celeste, I have two questions I can ask while others are thinking. A frequently asked question we've had in the past. So if someone is setting up their account and kind of starting to enter in their building data or energy data, maybe they get distracted with like emails or they're watching TV and they step away from their computer for a little bit. Is that information automatically saved, or are there other options to save?
That's a great question. So your information won't be saved until you click, you know, like create property or save bill entry. And so that can definitely be frustrating if you know, are halfway through and then you get distracted by email, like what happens to all of us every day. There is a super helpful tool that Portfolio Manager has. It's called the Data Collection Worksheet. And I just dropped in a link. And with that tool, you can see what data you'll need for your property based on the property type. So that's one way where you can kind of set yourself up for success by having all the data right there and ready.
Perfect. Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
Question in the chat. What are some recommendations for finding the square footage for certain areas of your building? Some of these areas, such as parking areas, are pretty large and how accurate should the information be?
Yeah, great question. So for parking areas, the reason why portfolio manager asks is because there are some engineering calculations that it does on the back end to subtract kind of an extrapolated value of parking, lighting use, for example, from your building, because portfolio manager cares about the building performance. It doesn't care about the building and parking lot performance. So it doesn't have to be super accurate, the size of your parking lot. And you can use, there are a couple of mapping tools that are free online that you can use to outline the size of your parking lot, and it will give you an estimated square footage for that. And I think that would be the kind of best practice if you're not sure what it is.
Yeah, that's good. And I think under the help section that Celeste had highlighted in Portfolio Manager, you can actually search for gross floor area and square footage, and it'll give additional recommendations for finding those measurements.
Mhm.
Okay, next question in the chat. What if building 2 does not have a gas meter, but is pulling gas from building 1?
So this is a great question. If there are two buildings that are sharing fuels like this, you'll probably want to benchmark them as a campus because they're sharing those meters. And so portfolio manager, again, does some engineering calculations to understand the efficiency performance of the building. So I'll drop a link for how to benchmark a campus. And of course, if you have more questions about it, I'm happy to answer them on this call or offline as well.
Yeah, and you can also email our program and we can give you an email response as well. So I'll put that email in the chat too.
And one question that was asked on the last training that we had that I thought was a really good one was asking about if there's multiple owners for a building, for example, with like an HOA, and you want to have multiple accounts that are, you know, able to view that information. And so you can do that through sharing those accounts. And we kind of talked a little bit about how you can connect with others. And so each owner of that building could have their own account, and then the building could be shared throughout. And I can drop a link for how to connect and share as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat. I will say last chance to ask Celeste anything because we're gonna let her go so she can enjoy the rest of her evening and eat some dinner. So yeah, with that, Celeste, thank you so much for joining us. You've been super helpful and we're very grateful. So thanks
Yeah,
again.
absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Awesome. So Celeste just dropped some resources for sharing maybe properties between accounts, and then how to benchmark a campus in the chat. So those are really helpful resources. And again, like she mentioned previously, kind of that help desk is really helpful. Energy Star has been around for a number of years, so likely as somebody has already asked a question that maybe you're thinking, so you can use the search in Energy Star to find a similar question. Okay, so we are going to jump to the next part of our training, and that's, you know, kind of what's after benchmarking. What do I do with this data? How do I save energy? And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Juan Tran at Hawaii Energy. So Juan, I'll go ahead and I'll share your slides.
Oh, okay. Are you okay? I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, you got it?
I think you should be able to see it now.
Yeah, I see it. So you can help me advance, yeah? Great.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks guys for coming to today's training. My name is Warren Tran. I'm an energy advisor here at Hawaii Energy. Next slide. We have a team of energy advisors that can help you out in every sector. We have commercial sectors, healthcare sectors, education, AOAOs, government, and retail as well. So you can go on to the Hawaii Energy website, click on About and our team, and you can contact any of the advisors here that can assist you with all your energy efficiency needs. Next slide. So Hawaii Energy is here to help with the benchmarking initiative. We have a landing page that has resources, deadline dates, how to apply, how to benchmark with links back to the state and county. So here's a good spot to kind of land on information that you would need to help you with your benchmarking and beyond. Next slide. So benchmarking, what happens after benchmarking? So it's not the end, right? So what you want to do is you want to see what your performance of your building is compared to your peers, and what if you're not doing so good and you want to improve. So one of the things that we suggest is you need to create an action plan on how you're going to do this. So in the past, it's always good to create an energy team, and then designate an energy champion in your company to head that team. One of the things that you can incorporate into your team are members of facility and management, engineering, and the most important, non-technical staff. Those are the ones that are actually, they see everything every day. So those are good people to have. And another staff member department that I didn't include here, which I feel like you should include, are finance people, the ones that pay the checks for the energy improvements. So if they can see what you guys are doing, they can understand the savings, most likely, they can assist you with funding. So that's always a positive thing. Next slide. So one of the ways that Hawaii Energy can help you are 4 types of energy assessment. So you benchmark, your score is high. Where in my building can I reduce energy? So a couple of things here. So a walkthrough with your staff is no cost. So you can look and walk around and see, low hanging fruit and see what kind of things that you can implement and change. Another assessment is what we call energy treasure hunt. It has a little bit more detail. You can bring your facility manager, engineer, and your staff. That team that I mentioned earlier can be along for the walkthrough. And one of our staff members, like myself and the engineer, will come and will identify low-hanging fruit, areas of improvement. Also behavioral changes, like in the break room or leaving lights on and off, so we can identify those things. And what we would do on the treasure hunt is we will prevent a presentation to your staff on what we found and estimated savings if you move forward with those particular projects. And on top of that, how much rebates we will provide based on what you changed. So, and the other 3 are energy audits and retro commissioning. Those do have a cost, and those need to have a contractor perform those. And we do have a list of contractors that can help assist. And again, our rebate provides a heavy subsidized amount to cover the cost for number 3 and 4. Next slide, please. And then this portal here on our website, can provide you with information on contractors that understand our program, that knows what paperwork to fill out, and to also know how much rebate you would get as well. So they can do a lot of the work for you. As well as buildings that need help benchmarking. I know Celeste went through a lot. So if for some reason you're short staffed, you want to meet the ordinance, you want to meet the deadline, but you can't do it. There are companies out there that are on this list that can help you with benchmarking with a little bit of a cost. So there is help out there. Sorry, next slide. Thank you. So just to give you a brief overview of the rebates, as mentioned earlier, the energy audits and the retro commissioning, we do provide rebates for those. So these numbers here might not make sense, but usually we pay 85% of the cost of the energy audit and the retro commissioning, and the customer has to pay 50%. So the contractor would do the work, they'll charge you 15% of the invoice, and then we'll pay the contractor the other 85%. Next slide. So other things that we do rebate, of course, is lighting, AC units like chillers, packages, window units, heat pumps. Also do commercial kitchen equipment for those buildings that have cafeterias, like hospitals and private schools, or larger buildings that have cafeterias. We do have kitchen equipment rebates, and transformers also. And then we have a program that's called midstream, meaning that if you want to move forward with lighting or kitchen equipment rebates, you don't have to do the paperwork. You can go to the distributor and you can provide a rebate at the point of purchase. So it makes it a little bit easier for you to get a rebate at the point of purchase. Next slide, please. Another rebate that we provide are for EV charging stations. We've been doing this for the last couple of years, and the last couple of years we provided rebates from dual port, so 2 stalls, charging stations. The one difference this year is we're also going to incentivize single port. So if you only have 1 stall and you want a charging station, we'll also provide a rebate for that as well. Next slide. And then our program helps small businesses with lighting retrofits and grants that help them with their energy efficient projects. So if you're a building that has a lot of small businesses, like on the bottom floor, a lot of restaurants, a lot of mom and pop stores, and you want to lower the energy usage in their facilities, Energy Advantage would be a good program for them. You have to be a nonprofit, small business, Schedule G, under 5,000 square foot. So those are some of the criteria. Next slide. And then we have a set on our website that shows you how to get a rebate, what's the application process, what do you need to submit. And again, you can always go back to all the energy advisors are here to help. We can walk you through the process. We can talk about your scope of work. We can introduce you to your contractors. We can help you in any way possible. So next slide. And so that's the end of my presentation. There's more to be said, but for this platform, I just want to kind of introduce the possibilities of helping you reduce your energy footprint. Here's a QR a code that you can take a picture on your phone and bring up my contact information. Again, I'm here to help. You have my contact information. You can email me anytime or email any advisor. So yeah, thank you very much. Back to you, Marissa.
So thanks, Juan. Are there any questions for Hawaii Energy, or maybe how to apply for a rebate, or any other rebate related questions for Juan on the line? Awesome. Well, thanks, Juan. Okay, I think now we can kind of open it up for any other questions, whether it's compliance related, maybe portfolio manager questions. I'll do the best I can to answer those. And then Juan will be on the line also for questions related to Hawaii Energy's rebates and sort of the next steps to saving energy after you start benchmarking in portfolio manager. Can use the chat or unmute, but I will stay on the line for about 15 more minutes. If you want to ask a question, you can also email us. But besides that, this was the formal part of the presentation, and I just want to thank everyone for signing on, tuning in, and listening to our speakers. So we're here to help. Please reach out if you have further questions. And with that, good luck on your benchmarking journey. Hello to the remaining 4. If there's no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting. But one more time, I'll just put in to the chat the best way to reach out to our benchmarking program. And that's energyprogram@honolulu.gov. So thank you again for tuning in. All right, thanks everyone.